Andrew already mentioned to you the budget transparency bill. You know, that was an excellent piece of legislation, and I have to say so myself. And here's why. I don't know if any of you have ever actually looked at the budget, but when I went down and I opened this 801-page document, I'm an attorney, and I could not understand where money was being spent. $165 billion. I had no clue where it was being spent looking at this document. So I did a little research and found out that before 1992, the budget was written based on a program-based budget. You budgeted based on what the program was that you wanted funded, so that you could say, okay, if you're wanting to determine how much money we're spending on the research on the mating habits of a Canadian earthworm, you could look in the budget and see. Well, back in '92, there was some rumblings from the governor about wanting to defund some aspects of the UT system. And the House at that time didn't really like that. And so they went to this strategic-based budgeting, which was based on concepts and goals and some ethereal stuff that really didn't make any sense. And so what ended up happening was you ended up with money that was kind of block granted to the agencies, and after that you had no idea where the money was being spent. So the agencies would present a budget that showed what these goals and concepts were that this money was being spent on, and then they kept a separate set of books to show what it was really spent. And so the reality was the only people that really understood the budget in the House of Representatives were the 27 members of the Appropriations Committee. And it dawned on me that there was 123 other representatives in the House and 25 million people in the state of Texas that could not pick up that budget and read it and understand where money was being spent. So my bill was a very simple bill. It asked for an annotation. It didn't even ask for rewriting the budget. It's a simple annotation at the end that basically asked for four things. Identify the program the money is being spent on. Identify the authority for the expenditure, because some of us believe the state doesn't have unlimited authority to spend money.
Yeah.
You don't have authority to spend it, you can't spend it. The third thing was how much money was actually being spent. How much were you appropriating for this program? By simply converting to an all bulk buying process. So that's the subject of some ongoing study to make sure that we get the right program in place to do both. Being in corrections, one of the things we realized is that we spend a lot of money incarcerating illegal immigrants who are parole eligible. Now, why should we continue to incarcerate illegal immigrants who should be paroled and deported?
Yeah.
There's over 3,000 of them that are parole eligible, non-violent illegal immigrants that do not need to be housed in Texas state prison. We could save $75 million a year by exporting this. And we actually had that on an amendment that got passed in the House, but it didn't get passed in the Senate. Now you're hearing me kind of grumble about the Senate because the saying in Austin goes that the Senate is where conservatives go to die. We just don't have a conservative Senate.
Amen.
We have a majority of Republicans down here. But how many of you have discovered that just because somebody's a Republican doesn't necessarily mean it's true? So you'll hear me use the word conservative a lot more than you'll hear me use the word Republican. Because I got a lot of Republicans that I voted for. It's conservative values, folks, that started this country. It's conservative values that kept this country going and made it prosperous. And it's conservative values that's going to bring us out of this quagmire that we're in. It's not socialism. It's not liberal thinking. It's not a one-size-fits-all. It's not an equal distribution of the wealth. It's freedom, free enterprise, and liberty that's going to pull us out of this mire. But I tell you, the one bill that I had, and I'll open up to some questions, but I had a lot of fun with it. Well, we got some blowback on it. Came up with this idea, being kind of a person that thinks that somebody ought to be rewarded for what they do rather than how long they're hanging on it. In the state, if you're a state employee, any state employees are here tonight, I don't want to you get longevity pay. You get a $20 monthly raise in longevity pay every 2 years. And I got to looking at it and thought, you know, there's got to be a lot of freshmen that come into state agencies that have fire in the belly, good ideas, very enthusiastic, that can implement some very good ideas that can save money, that can make things more efficient. But they're not being rewarded for those kind of ideas or that kind of hard work. But who's getting rewarded are the people that manage to hang around another year or two. And I got to thinking, why are we rewarding people for seniority when they may not be doing as good of a job as those who are new, but they're enthusiastic and they're maybe burning the midnight oil to achieve something? And I also thought, being kind of a practical person, that people who had more seniority should be working circles around those people anyway because they have more institutional knowledge. So the thinking was, let's convert longevity pay into merit pay and come up with a merit pay system where when somebody goes above and beyond the call of duty, we reward that. And the program that we came up with actually made it where you could actually make more money in merit pay than you could with longevity pay if what you were doing was enough above the norm. And in the process, we would save about $100 million for the state in doing it. When we proposed that bill in committee, when I offered that bill, I thought that the world had come to me. Because we started getting 500 and 600 emails a day from state workers saying that if you do that, it's going to make your life as we know it. And I'm like, well, first of all, we're not going to take away your longevity pay. We're just not going to give you more. But you can earn more. And the way we have it set up is you could actually earn more money through this merit pay system than you could through longevity pay. The problem is we couldn't, in the time we had, figure out the best system for developing a merit pay system so that it can be fairly implemented across the agency. So that isn't currently in a study to figure out how best to do that. But I believe that's going to come. And you know what? One of my favorite witnesses in the committee was a lady that was from the state of Utah. She was the head of a state agency that had 2,200 employees. They implemented merit pay, and they were able to increase their departments, their agency's efficiency by a third, while at the same time reducing their manpower by a third. Because people were motivated to do their job better because they were going to be rewarded for it if they did. The problem I got into a lot in Austin, though, was I was guilty of thinking like a reasonable person. And you run into that because I was surprised to learn that people had other agendas other than just trying to do what is the right thing for the state of Texas. And I say that because we're coming up on an election season. And you're going to hear in the Republican Party, everybody that's running is conservative. They're conservative. They're conservative. They're conservative. And I'm telling you, we need to find out who they are if they don't have a record. Because not everybody who says they're conservative is conservative. It takes a lot of stubbornness and determination and conviction to stand up in the face of adversaries and do what is the right thing. We had pressure from home. We had pressure from our colleagues. We had pressure from the leadership. We had pressure from committee chairs. We had pressure, believe it or not, from lobbyists. And there's a bunch of them in Austin to vote a certain way. And to buck that system and stand up and do what is right may sound easy in a vacuum, but it's not easy all the time. And so that funnels down, by the way, all the way to local level. And we will turn this thing around if we'll do what is necessary to make sure that we elect good, conservative people at all levels of government. What is it? Tip O'Neill said? He said all politics is local. And that's what we have to do. We need to remember this. Thomas Jefferson said, I predict future happiness for Americans if they can prevent the government from wasting the labors of the people under the pretense of taking care of it.
That's right. Amen.
So having said that, let me introduce you to somebody before we open this up for questions. We're going to be opening up the district office, and I apologize it's taken so long, but we were trying to work out some things that fell through. My district director, who some of you may or may not know, is Jim Thompson, right here. And I wanted to find somebody that's better looking than me so that it would be unpleasant to somebody often.
You got that backwards. He wanted somebody that when they stand beside him, he looks better. That's what it is.
I would say taller, but that's not true. No. Overall, it was a good session. but I'm going to be candid with you guys. We had, for the first time, 101 Republicans and 115 member House. That is a super majority, folks. I mean, when we found that out, one of the first things that we wanted to do was rent a bunch of buses and ask the Democrats if they wanted to go to Oklahoma. We were going to ship them there on our back. We could have accomplished a lot more. We should have had comprehensive property tax.
Amen.
We should have had that. We should have had comprehensive election reform. We had voter ID, a strong bill. There's a lot more to do. We should have had some comprehensive illegal immigration reform. And we could have done that. But what we found was that we had a division, a real gulf between those of us who were conservative and the power structure in the House who were not conservative. And so we were constantly being routed, 101 of us, by 49 Democrats, because we had factions in the House. That's going to come up again. So one of the things that we need to do is pray that we will have a conservative speaker. If you write letters, write to your legislators about how they vote for the speaker. And when you vote, make sure that you're going to vote for somebody who's going to vote for the most conservative speaker we can find. The Speaker of the House in the state of Texas is the most powerful person in the state. It controls all the legislation in the House. Votes if something doesn't go to the House, it doesn't get to the Senate, and it sure doesn't get to the governor. So it's an important, powerful position, and it controls a lot of what goes on that way. The committee assignments, to the calendar, when bills come up, how they come up, if they come up. Very powerful position. So having said all that, I think I'm getting too far in the weeds. Do we have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Erwin, when you spoke of writing the letters, from my understanding with Joe Strauss, there were 7,000 letters sent. They were ignored by the Republicans we brought in. That's why we didn't get the vote. If we had the Republicans, that's what was so upsetting. We need to go back to the grassroots and get those particular people out.
I agree.
We'll never change that.
By the way, I read the letter. I got a stack of emails and letters back. Not one of them asked me to vote. Not one. So I thought, well, I'm not always the sharpest tool in the drawer, but I can figure this one out. And that's the way I voted. And I haven't had anybody complain to me yet about it. Except them. I guess I've probably got to put this one.
Representative James, is there anything being done in the office about requiring welfare recipients to go tested before they receive payments?
We discussed that an awful lot. And believe it or not, the very fiscal problem that we were in is the very reason a bill like that couldn't get any traction, because the testing was going to cost money. And anything that was going to cost money was not going to pass that money. And so, great ideas that in the end could save money. But when we write a bill, we also have to have on it what is called a fiscal note, which means a statement about how much it's going to cost the state of Texas to implement that bill. And even though that could save money, the fiscal note can't talk about how much money you're saving. It can only address how much money you're spending. And if it was an expenditure, it wasn't going to pass. It was dead on arrival.
But if they can afford drugs, they can afford to go have their own drug test before you hand them that drug.
You need to run for that. Any other questions?
Is there an agency who rates the conservative legislation?
Power tax, and a lot of other people for them, I believe, does.
Do they rank all of them?
State and state senators, state reps. You guys rate the congressmen?
No, not yet.
Great resource, empowertexas.org, I believe.
.com.
.com.
If you're interested in signing up for our emails, we send out about one a week. We send out a day.
Okay. Very good resource from conservative thinkers. Very, very good.